Welcome to the Florida Constitution, a presentation of amendments, in particular the bundled amendments on the November 6, 2018 Florida ballot. You must be wondering, who is this person presenting this PowerPoint? My name is Dennis Wall. I have written 4 books on legal issues, including issues that affect the public, and I've tried cases and appeals in federal courts and in Florida state courts, and I've also testified as an expert witness, all since 1978. In 1978, when I was a young lawyer, I wanted my first job as a lawyer to be in public service. The first job I applied for as a lawyer straight out of law school was with the Florida Department of Legal Affairs, now more often called the Florida Attorney General's Office. Right after I joined the Florida Attorney General's Office, I got a special assignment to provide support to the first Constitutional Revision Commission in Florida. That was in 1978. And that brings us to today, 40 years later, with another round of proposals to talk about that would amend the Florida Constitution. Today's presentation will address the Constitutional Revision Commission's bundled amendments. There are 19 by my count for the price of 6, so to speak. The citizens' initiatives in the Florida legislature can also make proposals for amendments to the Florida Constitution, but they cannot bundle them. They have to have one amendment, one subject. No body, no group, nobody has ever bundled before. This is a first in 2018. Florida is reportedly the only state with a state Constitutional Revision Commission. This year, Florida is also reportedly the only state with bundled amendments, for the first time ever. The amendments proposed by the Constitutional Revision Commission, or CRC, will be numbers 6 through 12. I think they're going to be called revisions on the ballot. The Florida Supreme Court took number 8 off the ballot already because it's misleading and confusing. So, what is the Constitutional Revision Commission, the CRC, doing? 19 does not equal 6. Still, each of the proposals from the CRC are each one called a constitutional revision. Each group is described as one amendment. Why is this being done? Why is this bundling taking place in 2018? And why has it not happened before? That's what this presentation will address. So let's take a look at the CRC's 6 bundles of amendments. The first of the 6 is Amendment 6. There are 3 amendments in one here. One dealing with old and new rights for crime victims, and new limits on appealing convictions and changes on due process. This proposal, this first of the 3, adds a shot clock, so to speak, to appeals, like in basketball. Take the shot within a certain amount of time, 2 years in non-capital cases, 5 years in appeals of death penalty crimes. Still looking at the first of the group on the number 6 amendment, the appeal is over unless a judge certifies and that judge's chief judge reports to the Speaker of the House and the President of the Florida Senate why it's taking so long. The amendment is silent on what happens when an appeal takes too long, but this is not basketball or any game. We know what happens. The sentence is imposed. In a capital case, that means a person dies. This amendment also eliminates an existing Florida Constitution provision that victims' rights do not interfere with constitutional rights of the accused. On to the 2 other amendments that were packaged for the ballot in the CRC's Amendment 6, both regarding judges. One raises retirement age from age 70, where it is now, to 75, and the other is said to make judges and not administrative agencies make judgments, but that's not what it says. It says, courts and judges may not defer to an administrative agency's interpretation of such statute or rule. It does not say that courts and judges may not substitute judgments of an administrative agency for their own judgments. And I have been a lawyer for 40 years. Judges get the final word. The CRC's Amendment 7. This one is a package of 4 in 1. Here are the first 2. 1. First responder death benefits to be paid by state and local governments. This adds paramedics and EMTs to who are first responders. They are already county employees. Would this amendment duplicate contract benefits? It doesn't say. Secondly, U.S. military. It definitely duplicates death benefits already paid by the U.S. Army, for example, and the federal government. The death benefits would be paid by funds from general revenue, quote unquote, which means from taxes. Moving to the other 2 out of 4 in the CRC's Amendment 7, we have Part 3. makes raising fees at state universities and colleges a vote only of a supermajority, but that's only if the legislature authorizes either the Board of Trustees of the local university to raise fees and to have a vote, or the Board of Governors is authorized to impose fees or raise fees if the legislature authorizes them to have a vote. Part 4 of the CRC's Amendment 7 imposes a new and different framework which it invents for state colleges. Currently, universities are governed by the State Board of Governors and by local boards of trustees for each and every university. They all include members of the faculty and members of the student body. That's not the case for state colleges. This invention for the state colleges says that the Board of Trustees will be all appointed by the governor. In addition, the Board of Education of the state of Florida, which governs kindergarten through 12, will also govern state colleges. On to CRC's Amendment 9. Recall that a judge took their number 8 off the ballot. Number 9 has a package of 2 in 1. It would prohibit offshore oil and gas drilling. It would apply to Florida waters, not federal waters. It would not apply to interstate or intercountry commerce. It would essentially apply to waters by Florida beaches. It would also prohibit indoor vaping or electronic cigarette smoking. And I'm guessing what these two provisions have in common that they were put together is that they both have vapors. The CRC's Amendment 10. Once again, we meet 4 in 1. Here's the first 3 of them. 1. That the legislature shall meet in January in even years. The legislature already has the authority to do that by statute. 2. It makes a new government agency, the Office of Domestic Security and Counterterrorism. It would be housed in the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement already fights terrorism. 3rd, this mandates a Florida Department of Veteran Affairs, and we already have one. The 4th part and final part of the CRC's Amendment 10. It's a big one. 4. It says all counties must have quote-unquote constitutional officers. It says who they are, which is not a change from the Constitution, but it does more than it says that it does. It provides that charter counties are going to be changed. A charter is like a mini constitution for counties. We have 20 charter counties out of our 67 counties in Florida. This would make all 67 counties the same kinds of county government. The CRC's Amendment 11. This one is 3 in 1, which I call the Type A personality grab bag. 1. It would delete language held unconstitutional that authorized Florida to prohibit people ineligible for citizenship from acquiring, owning, or selling property. 2. It deletes language that Florida could use to keep people in prison if the law they were charged under has been repealed. And 3rd and finally, it deletes high-speed rail language. You recall we passed a high-speed rail amendment, then found out it would cost $25 billion and repealed it. The language is still there. Last but not least from the CRC's Amendment 12. Here we have 2 in 1. One provision would apply to lobbying. A second provision would provide that if a public official receives a disproportionate benefit from public office, then something would happen. It's not quite clear what, and it does not say what would be a disproportionate benefit. Instead, the amendment leaves that to be decided by a Florida State Ethics Commission. After I began preparing this presentation, the Florida Supreme Court ruled on Wednesday, October 17, 2018, in effect that the CRC is not bound by the Florida Constitution to one subject, one amendment, like citizen initiatives, and even the Florida legislature are bound. As one person suggested on an earlier presentation this year, we can fix this next year. We can change the Florida Constitution to make the CRC subject to the same rule of law. Now, what about this year? So again, why has the CRC tried to bundle in 2018? So again, why is the CRC bundling now? Well, to increase the chances of passing them all, as a judge pointed out in the case that knocked proposed Amendment 8 off the ballot. The judge wrote, "There was no need to describe 3 separate proposals in a 15-word title and a 75-word summary. There is no limit on the number of proposals the CRC can advance. It chose to bundle the 3 proposals together to increase, in its view, their chances of passage. That decision was affirmed by the Supreme Court of Florida." There's more than one approach to voting on the CRC's bundled amendments. One approach is to pick one of the amendments out of each bundle that you like, or not so much, and vote accordingly. The problem with that approach is, what if you like one and strongly oppose another one from the same group? Or you can take other approaches. Pick one that feels best to you. One thing that can be done is to vote against every single bundled amendment proposed by the CRC in 2018. The CRC will do this bundling again until it's stopped. So, as we are just about a few seconds away from conclusion, now is the time to decide about bundling on November the 6th. The choice is yours. You can vote to stop the bundling. And look for the voter guide. Register to vote and check out your voting status at bereadytovote.org. It is a nonpartisan website, and I believe you will find it absolutely astonishing. I did. Thank you for attending this presentation. It is a production of Dennis Wall, not a production of any other person, not a production of any group. Any lapses in talking and pronunciation are mine. And thank you again for attending and for putting up with it. I appreciate it.